Hello and welcome to episode 22 of Around the Lens, a weekly visual journalism roundtable podcast. I'm your host, David J. Murphy. I have been in the business for about 16 years. I'm getting a little ahead of myself. I am recording this out of Charleston, South Carolina this week. Last week I was in Biloxi, Mississippi, my future home, but I'm back in Charleston.
And I am your co-host, Zach D. Roberts. I'm a photojournalist who works in New York and Alaska. I've worked for BBC, The Guardian, but most recently I've been working on a documentary called The Best Democracy Money Can Buy. And my co-host is running away for some reason.
Oh, live. I love live. Anyways, we're back. Okay, so we're recording today, April 25th. We got a lot of great topics to talk about, but I want to introduce my panelists this week. We got two great panelists. We got B.A. Van Sise,
Close enough, yeah.
and Federica Armstrong. Go ahead and introduce yourselves to our audience.
B.A., go ahead.
Hi, I'm B.A. Van Sise. I'm a 15-year veteran of the photojournalism community here in New York. My work is most frequently featured now in travel and editorial features, most frequently in the Travel Leisure magazine.
What magazines can we see your work in, travel-wise?
I'm a freelancer, so you can see it everywhere, really. I do a lot of feature stuff. I sell a lot of stock. Travel and Leisure gives me stock assignments as well. I go to about 15 countries a year for different magazines.
Nice.
Wow. How are you able to convince magazines to pay you to travel?
You wear a necktie and look impressive, Dave.
That's okay. I'll just keep wearing my hoodie.
That's the secret. Neckties.
Yep.
And vests, apparently.
Yep. That's all you need.
All right, great.
Not skill or ability, I guarantee it. Just neckties.
All right, Federica?
Yes, my name is Federica Armstrong. I'm originally from Italy, and I live here in the San Francisco Bay Area, Palo Alto. I'm a documentary photographer. I work mainly with nonprofit organizations here in the Bay Area, the South Bay in San Francisco, and I also work on personal documentary projects, mainly on social issues, also agriculture and sustainability. And I've been doing this here in the Bay Area for the last 7 years.
Wow. And do you ever go back to Italy to do any documentation work?
I go back to Italy generally at least once a year, and generally I'm more busy dealing with family, actually. But I do try to do a little bit of work when I can. Generally the time doesn't allow me to do much work over there, but I would love to do more of it.
Does your work with the nonprofit take you around the world, or do you mostly just do work in the San Francisco Bay Area?
For the most part, I tend to work mainly here in the Bay Area because I also have a family, so my role as a mother, full-time mother, tends to keep me more here in the Bay Area. But I do enjoy doing this kind of stuff, different things, and really working on the social issues here in the Bay Area, which there are many of. So.
Okay, great. Well, we got a lot to talk about this week, but before we do, I just want to remind everybody we have a bonus topic following the show, so if you want to see that immediately, go to patreon.com/aroundthelens, donate $1. If not, you'll see it eventually in a week or so. If beyond that, like our Facebook page, subscribe to our YouTube page, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, all that good stuff. So I'm trying a little thing, throw it at the beginning of the show. That way, if people trail off by the end, they at least hear the plugs. But anyways, let's get on with the show. We got a lot of great stuff to talk about. First thing I want to talk about is the Pulitzer Prize. So we got the Pulitzer Prize winners were announced. So we got winners in photojournalism and photography, of course. So what I want to do is I just want to talk about who the winners were. What do we think about the actual event, or at least the winners, the winning entries? What are our thoughts on those? What are the thoughts of the Pulitzer Prize in general? Is it a relevant award? I mean, we've heard in the past of Pulitzer Prize-winning photographers not being protected, in terms of news stations or newspapers. They let everybody go. It doesn't matter what your award status is. So does the Pulitzer Prize still have significance in this day and age? So again, what are your thoughts on the Pulitzer Prize? Zach, how about you?
Well, I mean, I think it's always relevant, if for no other reason, and it's kind of like a lot of the awards, they're usually good for photojournalism because it's kind of the one time a year that people actually, the rest of the media kind of takes a moment and maybe hopefully has a conversation about the importance of photojournalism. And I mean, this year's not any different. I've seen at least a couple other news stories on MSNBC and other places talking about people's works. And as usual, the Pulitzer Prizes seem to be usually a relatively solid. Solid group of photography, not necessarily like the the World Press Awards, which can't seemingly get out of controversy. I mean, I guess this year wasn't too bad. I don't distinctly remember any controversies, but Pulitzers, I personally don't ever remember, finding out that the photos were faked or something like that. So
you never hear about that with the Pulitzers. You always hear about that in other contests.
Yeah.
Well, it's also the publications they pull out of too. They're going with older, grayer publications that are a little more responsible with that, rather than World Press, which will go with some of the more lone wolf types. And in response to what Zach said, also I think that it's relevant not only to sort of the specific stories, but also I think it's a good way of taking a pulse of what's going on both in photojournalism and the world. If you look at any particular year, the Pulitzers are telling you what people are really thinking about. Because this year's Pulitzers, unlike some other years, it's all about this is the year 2016 and everything sucks. And and every single but on the writing side, even I'm doing a project right now that involves a lot of poets, and I'm working with the Pulitzer Prize on it. And even the poet they picked, all his poems are about how everything in the year 2016 kind of sucks.
Yeah.
And it definitely gets an idea of sort of what the zeitgeist is at any given time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this year seemed to be all about refugees. That seems to be the theme of all the winners.
Yep.
Or most of the winners, anyways. Federica, what are your thoughts on the Pulitzer Prize?
Yeah, I think it's one of the few recognitions that still honors photojournalists and what they put themselves through to actually get the pictures. So I think it's very well respected, and I think it's much needed at a time where sometimes photojournalism, because of controversy or because of lack of support or sometimes finance, really create not interesting but valuable work. I think it's always a very, very good recognition, and I think the story that was chosen this year is absolutely the one that needs attention. And I do hope that in the future we'll also start seeing also positive stories about refugees. I mean, after the difficulty in coming over into Europe, I think hopefully we will see more journalists spending time and trying to really portray the refugees not just as victims, but also are people that are, rebuilding things and are, willing to put themselves out there for good work.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like the majority of this work is coming from the New York Times.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess that shows the pedigree.
There, so I do enjoy. I talked about it briefly last show, but do enjoy that Jessica Rinaldi's work got recognized. The fact that it's not one of these enormous stories. Like every year, 2014 it was Euromaidan, 2015 it was Ferguson, police shooting, stuff like that. And this year it's refugees coming over. But the feature photographer actually is just a story of about the thing for a raw and revealing photographic story of a boy who strives to find his footing after abuse by those he trusted, and it's a fantastic news story, and it's kind of, again, it's one of those. We always look at the big picture stories, the blood, the people dead on the dead on streets and stuff like that. Like those are kind of award-winning photos. Like you look at those in Newsweek or whatever, and you're like, that one's gonna win something one day, next year. But then you see something like Rinaldi's work that can very easily get kind of tucked under the photographic attention that we give to photos, and I'm really, really happy that one won the feature photographer award.
Well, it's really good old school school storytelling. It has a beginning, it has an end, it has a correct narrative, and I just can't even imagine how good it feels to be Jessica Rinaldi right now.
Yeah.
I mean, she wins the Pulitzer Prize for feature photography, and the run-up for the same prize is also Jessica Rinaldi.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, she's a bunch former. It's unbelievable. And sort of put together a story like that, and that was the kind of thing where she put that together. You just know she pitched it to an editor. It didn't come from the office.
Yeah.
And it's an absolutely beautiful story that shows something about kind of why we all got into it. We can't all be Tyler Hicks.
Who once again won another
third year in a row
award, because he's the man that seems to know where to be and is also a stunning, amazing photographer who we all should be just ashamed that we carry the same type of camera equipment that he does.
Why aren't we winning Pulitzers? I have a camera similar to his.
Yeah.
Well, the nice thing is Tyler's probably the only guy in this business with job security too.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody else, they have a really good prize they can carry on that employment line, but Tyler's probably got it pretty solid.
He looks like, oh my God, what's the swimmer? The famous Olympic swimmer. He looks like Michael Phelps when it comes to Pulitzers,
He wears them all around.
If I was him, I would do that. Instead of wearing like a bulletproof vest, I would just be like, no, I'm just wearing all of my Pulitzer prizes.
So there you go. If you're an up-and-coming photographer or photojournalist thinking, can I really make it in this industry? It's easy. All you have to do is win 3 Pulitzers in a row.
You just have to be Tyler Hicks. I mean, that's it,
Win a Pulitzer every single year to maintain your job.
Yep.
That's all you have to do. Yep. What about, I guess, contests in general? Because, I mean, obviously none of us have Pulitzers, right?
No. They overlook me every time.
Unfortunately.
Not yet. Not yet.
I'm always third runner-up. But what if some awards we've won? I mean, are awards relevant? For what we do. I mean, are you going and are you going to not? Are you going to get a promotion because of an award? Are you going to maintain your job? Is an award tied to your job security? So, tell me about that. How is that for you guys?
Well, I think it's certainly winning awards is it's something that gives you prestige. It's something that certainly allows people to see your work more extensively. So, but I do think that at the end of the day, you do win awards when you do the kind of work that comes from the heart. So it's a consequences. I don't think that a lot of people shoot to get awards. I don't think you win them that way. But I also think that it's important to kind of direct your work to certain, to have the right venues to show your work. So that's really important.
Yeah. I went through the Eddie Adams workshop 13 years ago, and I had a really interesting conversation with Joe Rosenthal when I was there. And he pointed out the single best bit of photo advice I've ever gotten, which is this: our community is an incredibly small one. Everybody knows everybody. And if you do well, people will hear about it. And if you screw up, people will hear about it. Yep. And I think that's somewhat irrelevant, or makes awards somewhat irrelevant. Just because if you do something great, if you really hit it, everyone's going to see, everyone's going to know, everyone's going to hear about it. The one thing I think the awards are really good for is keeping you going in a business that is very difficult, that is at times very stressful on really every level. I mean, photojournalism has ruined lots of marriages, it's ruined lots of lives, but there's a thing in your heart that keeps you going and doing it. And I think that recognition, I think having your peers give it to you, while it doesn't really, it's not money you can put in the bank, it does drive you forward in the thing you started out to do.
Yeah. I mean, I think that one of the problems, I'm not quite sure what either of your statuses are, but I mean sometimes they are helpful for people who you have to, unfortunately now, I always tell the story. I think I've only dealt with 2 photo editors in my entire career so far. Yeah, that's so sad. Village Voice doesn't have a photo editor.
Yeah.
I mean, most of my work is bought through through agencies and stuff like that. So I literally, my work with Al Jazeera and I think one other place I can't remember right now where I actually dealt with a photo editor, is that a lot of times the awards do help for attention and just kind of the ease to go, well, yeah, I won that thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that I actually have never won an award until last year but I didn't win for photography. I won for my research work. I won a Global Editors Data Journalism Award with along with the entire fantastic Al Jazeera team. And I can't say that's helped, but it certainly is. It's one of those things when you're getting into an argument with someone. I get to say, well,
sleep out. award.
Here's the link to something I won. I mean, like the entirety of the global editors decided that my work on Crosscheck, the voting rights program, or voting suppression program, won an award. So I mean, like, I would think that it's got to help especially if you're not Tyler Hicks, or you're not working for the Boston Globe or something like that. Is that if you're a freelancer out there, that the awards, I mean, especially considering, I mean, the awards do come with a $10,000 prize, some of them. So I gotta say, it does probably at least help, a little bit. So
I stopped doing awards after I left the military as enlisted, just because, I mean, when I was enlisted, I was doing the MILFOG. Yeah, MILFOG, MILVID, MILGRAPH, all that good stuff. The Visual Information Awards program. Actually, which they just completed the judging, I think, last week. So my pick of the week will be related to that. But beyond that, I mean, I wish I had done more awards when I was kind of younger, because obviously every award you get adds to your resume, and it's something you kind of hang on your your chest in terms of what you've done and who you are. Which, of course, if you're in the military and you're going to be getting out and you want to try and continue doing what you're doing with the photography or broadcasting or whatnot, obviously having those awards helps. I mean, I think the prestige of the Military Photographer of the Year competition is great, but trying out and expanding and all that. But of course, there is a double-edged sword with a lot of these award programs, in that you have to pay to enter most of them. Yep. So for some photographers, it's kind of a pretty big financial burden, if you will, to have to put even like one entry in some contests, like $50. Oh, yeah. And if you're not backed up by somebody like the New York Times or something that's subsidizing that submission, how are you, how do you find the sort of, I guess, intestinal fortitude to be like, okay, this is good enough work, I'm going to put it out there and spend hundreds of dollars to have it judged. Yeah. Are there free competitions? Are they going to have any free competitions that lend themselves to what they can do?
I mean, there's the NPPA competition. They have monthly competitions and a bigger yearly one, which is free. Obviously, kind of free. I mean, you pay. It's part of you pay what I think it's $125 for a year membership. But of course, obviously, there's like 8,000 other benefits for that. $125. We should note, by the way, you mentioned the military awards. We have a former guest and friend of the show who won second place in the portrait personality category, C.S. Muncie. So applause.
I think I have a sound. I think I can make that sound somehow.
Oh God, no! Please don't get into the sound effects.
Okay, sure, you got it. I won't do that at all.
But yeah, so I mean, it's I mean, for
me. There you go.
Okay, I'm done.
So yeah, I mean, for me, it's always been really tough. I seem to be continually broke at the end of the year when the award season comes around, and so at this point, I've just given up. Because I covered Euromaidan, and I submitted a couple photos from there, but my photos were nothing compared to most of the people who were there, and the access that they had, well, the fact that they were there when a lot of the violence was going on. So I mean, I personally perpetually seem to be one day behind. Ferguson, I missed by 24 hours. There's been at least 3 or 4 different stories in the past 3 years that I've been 24 hours behind on, which is again something that the New York Times and Time Magazine, people who are staff photographers, they can just jump on a flight and they just go, or they're sent there beforehand. So there's a lot of trickery for it's tough for a freelancer, at least in my experience, to even get there. So
Zach, what you got to do is you got to find out where Tyler Hicks is at all times and just go where he goes.
Can we start that as a conspiracy theory? The thing I was talking about is that Tyler knows where things are happening. He's some weird Cassandra of photojournalism.
Hold
I'll buy that.
If you just on that thought, Zach, I think the Times team The only one of them who's actually staff at the Times is Tyler, right? I don't think the other two are.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Yeah, I mean, I again, everything is a joke. Everything I'm saying critically about Tyler Hicks and the team and whatever, they every single time they win an award, they deserve it. It's absolutely stunning. So,
Tyler, hire me.
And the worst part is you're going to meet him at a party. He's going to have seen this broadcast.
If Tyler Hicks watches this podcast,
I'm getting Tyler on the show next week or whatever. Someday I'll get him on. But Federica, any awards, or actually both of you? I mean, although you're a freelancer BA, I mean, you said you've worked for multiple travel journals.
And I've been staff too. I was staff newsday for a few years.
Did they submit stuff for you for awards?
They did. When I was staff, they submitted for me, but I was young and my work was crap, and so nothing would ever have won. Now, because I don't actually get much in the way of travel, because there's not a lot for that. There's a lot of these fake contests that we all get a million emails about every day, where there's 70 contests that are spring up, and you give them $200 and they'll give you an award in Moscow. So I get a lot of those. I ignore them. I have a lifestyle business, which you know about, and for the sort of the wedding lifestyle event thing, there's a lot of awards there, and those actually make a big difference. Those exist a lot, but in the travel world and the newspaper world, I'd love to say I have appeals for my bathroom, or maybe as many as Tyler does, but sadly I don't.
Someday.
Yeah.
Federica, any contests?
Actually, a non-profit that I work for here in Palo Alto called Canopy submitted one of my pictures. They are an environmental non-profit here. They basically plant trees and promote trees around the Bay Area in general. And they go beyond the actual just simple trees. They really try to use trees also to promote the well-being of communities, because it's something quite known where there are little trees, generally these are very poor communities, and trees actually beautify the environment and people's lives. So I take pictures for them, and one of those pictures was submitted for a prize, and it won first prize. It was something like national, I can't remember now, something about trees and environment, and it won an award a couple of years ago. But other than that, no, unfortunately, not all awards. Once in a while I submit things, but not yet one.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and move on to our next topic. There was an article published by the Photo Shelter blog talking about photos that couldn't have been made 5 years ago. So in the article, they mentioned 8 photos, specifically 8 examples that couldn't have been made using things like being able to change depth of field, ISO, autofocus, high-speed sync, a whole number of different technological breakthroughs that have happened. The Pixel Stick, which we'll talk about a little later in our Gear Talk segment, and then drones, of course. So my question to you all is, have you seen this in your work? I mean, I'm using the same camera I used in 2009, but I do have a new camera. But in terms of just what I shoot on a regular basis, I don't sort of see the technology kind of preventing me from doing what I want to do. But have you all experienced this? Have you upgraded to new cameras that you couldn't have done things in the past with, or as easily? How has technology sort of affected you?
Yeah, personally, I have to say I'm not much of a techie person. I shoot, obviously DSLR, and I actually still like film, so sometimes I shoot with a Hasselblad. But for me, because it's documentary work, it's much more about connecting with my subjects and trying to understand what's the feel for a story. So actually, the less equipment I have, the better it is. I try to rely more on my eyes and on sensing a situation, and just the quality of the atmosphere, the light, all of that, to really tell the stories that I work on. So having said that, of all the things that was mentioned in the article, I think drones is something that is really cool and that can really enhance what you can do, especially when you look at work that is a little bit more maybe conceptual, maybe things that go a little bit beyond, because I think that the kind of images that you get from a drone, they're quite unique. We'll get used to them pretty soon, I'm sure, but that offers something unique. And the high ISO is also something that I think in certain situations can really, make a difference and really enhance your ability to capture certain situations. So that would be it.
I think on the list, I think the drone's the biggest game changer.
Yeah.
I mean, without a doubt. I remember 10 years ago, Vince LaFerre used to do these aerial pictures that'd be on, every single week there'd be some splashy picture on the front of the New York Times. Vince LaFerre got up in a helicopter, did some crazy angle, climbed up the top of the Empire State Building, whatever it might be. And the thing about the drones is that now a person with a couple $100 can go and do those same kind of images. And it affects people in journalism. It affects people on the wedding side. It certainly affects people in travel. It provides people with a new angle. And I think Federica's right. I think that it will lose its novelty at some point, probably some point soon. But for the time being, it's provided people with a angle that is novel. Humans don't fly very well naturally, so I think that's the biggest game changer of them. It really is.
Yeah. For me, it's the difference between going from a Nikon D90 back in 2011 and a Nikon D600. And again, it's the ISO. It's the quality of the frame that I can make at 2 o'clock in the morning, lit by nothing more than street lamps. And I look at the photos, I look at the photos from Occupy Wall Street, and I look at the photos from I think the first story that I covered with the D600 was probably Ferguson, and similar lighting conditions, similar scenes and stuff like that, and the photos are just it's a completely different world. My Occupy photos, I relied on after doing post editing more than just the quick photojournalism editing. I relied on working with the grain and working with maybe throwing some stuff into black and white, or making it a little bit award fodder. High grain, high contrast, black and white, wins an award. But my Ferguson stuff is all in color, and most of it looks like it was shot in the late afternoon, because you can shoot at some ridiculous ISO and it looks like stuff, it looks normal, especially on a computer screen, not like blown up huge or anything like that. So I mean, like that technologically, I don't. If I switch over to the Sonys at some point, like I keep hoping to, maybe, or the D5 or something like that, if I, come into some massive amount of money, then, like sell my kidney or something like that, then it'll be a whole different world, and it'll be like another leap, because I mean, like what I'm working with, it's amazing, and I could work with this for the rest of my life, but I mean, like looking at the Sonys technologically, I mean, I feel like those cameras are like 5 years ahead, when it comes to that sort of thing. So,
yeah, I'll echo that. I mean, high ISO is really where it's at in terms of the real advancement, in terms of getting actual work and getting actual documentation, because being able to go in and expose for light in completely nearly pitch black environments is, really opening up the possibilities for what photojournalists can do. I mean, I remember one of the other contests where somebody won, and they shot with a 5D Mark II, and they had to have like a 1.4 lens on there, and it was still blurry and grainy because they had to shoot at such a high ISO. And if they had a Sony A7S II or something similar, Nikon D5, or probably whatever Canon comes out with next, I know they had that really high ISO video camera they came out with recently. But high ISO is really a big deal, and I think another big deal, and it's more on a smaller level, is sort of the Wi-Fi shooting capability. I mean, I've got a new camera, the Panasonic GH4, and that allows me to connect my phone to the camera and allows me to sort of remotely shoot. And I think for stuff where maybe you're trying to put the camera in different places, that's a really powerful tool to be able to actually see what you're shooting from a distance.
Yeah.
You no longer have to be exactly right behind the camera. So I think that's a pretty neat advancement that we've seen recently as well.
I would also add, and I think it kind of goes along with the ISO as well, is going 2011 video on DSLRs. You go from the 5D Mark II, I think, would be the only kind of big camera that, full-frame camera that had video then, to, the D500 would beat the living crap out of the video of the 5D Mark II now. And that's a $2,000 price difference right there. I mean, my D600s, I mean, they have 1080p, it's ridiculous, along with image stabilization, built into a lot of the lenses and how everything works. I mean, I can't believe the video that I'm able to get out of this camera that I bought from CS Muncie for $900. I mean, like, it's just it's flabbergasting to me.
Yeah, I think the great thing too is, obviously talking about video, being able to shoot 4K, and being able to, if you want to pull out stills from that 4K video. I know that some of the cameras have 4K photo modes that allow you to shoot, in 4K and then pull out pretty decent high quality stills. So I mean, if you're shooting, primarily photojournalism or a newspaper or website, then you can get away with that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, interesting to see where technology goes in the next 5 years and what we'll be able to do with that. Any predictions? Where are we going to be at in 5 years from now? What's the next big leap? No ideas. Nobody has any. Pie in the sky. Go pie in the sky.
Cameras that move through time. I don't know.
I mean, to me, it's going to be.
That's cool.
You're gonna have drones that are not only cheap, not only able to support 4K video of an actual real quality, not like GoPro 4K or something like that, but have like decent. I mean, at 4K, I mean GoPros are good quality, but I'm saying like, Sony have a Sony sensor on a drone and have them easily usable so that anybody can really just throw them up in the air and have them work super easy. My experiences with drones have not been pleasant. I've almost gotten some skin broken and a wall chipped. And then it just comes down to I mean, I think there's always a certain point where I'm like, I don't know. I still have yet to see what the point is beyond 1080p. I think 4K is super nice and be able to do some gradation and stuff like that for video-wise, but for journalism, unless you're pulling something out of it that's not necessarily supposed to be there, but if you're just shooting what you're supposed to be shooting, then I don't know what beyond that is. But we already have 8K TVs, so the cameras are going to be there probably in the next year or two. If they're not, they probably already exist. It's just a matter of whether the right code has been written. So
Red is the only camera manufacturer I've seen where you can buy an 8K camera.
Yeah.
5 years from,
go ahead.
I was going to say, you're talking about 5 years from now. I mean, 5 years from now is a lifetime away in our business. But I would suspect we're going to see, by that point, the business largely has moved over to mirrorless systems. I think that's going to be the biggest thing. I think that the quality will come up a little bit, or maybe quite a lot. Not necessarily because of the quality, though, because of the stealth of it. Just, I've been seeing a lot more of them at news shoots that I've been doing. I've seen guys who are serious guys who are bringing them, which I wouldn't have imagined a year ago. So I think that will start coming along more, which is good and bad. I like Federica Miss Film, but that's about the most prediction I can make.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think next thing you know, we're going to have cameras that don't need photographers, and that's going to be bad for everyone, I think.
Yeah.
Because already you see software that goes through photographs, and they tell you exactly what works and what doesn't work. They can recognize people. Can be pretty scary, I have to say. Because I think, again, not being a very techie person, I still like the idea that we can choose and we can do better pictures than any computer out there. But we'll see.
I'll be very surprised if we don't see, in the next 5 years, if we don't start seeing real size sensors in cell phone cameras. Because, I mean, to me, that's the biggest limitation, is that the Apple phones are really nice and everything like that, and they shoot at 4K and they do this whole thing, but the sensor's still the size of a speck. So when we start having, as long as we can get over the idea that the phone needs to be wafer thin, like seems to be the new obsession in phones for some reason, because I like personally holding on to my phone, which is why I still have a Note 3, because it at least has some thickness to it. But the moment we get over that it has to be, at least the entire phone could be like maybe a 1/4 inch thick, then we'll start seeing DSL micro Four Thirds sensors into this tech is not too far off. I mean, you see how thin a Sony full frame camera is right now. It's ridiculous. And it's not going to be too far. I personally would not mind a cell phone that thick. I personally would actually really like that because I feel like it could actually be built a little bit better, and I wouldn't have to worry about dropping it. But I feel like that's hopefully going to be the move in cell phone cams and tech in general. So
Well, there have been some cameras and some phones that have tried to push that. I don't know how financially successful those ventures have been, but I mean, it definitely once Apple or once the big names start doing it, everybody else will fall in line.
yeah,
But as far as where I see sort of technology going, obviously 8K, that's going to be the next big thing, next bullet point that everybody's going to push in their technology. Beyond that, I think more wireless transmission, drones that can stay up longer and follow you better. Because a lot of drones nowadays, they can almost, you can send them up and they can automatically do everything almost. So I think we're going to see a lot more where the actual piloting of the drone is taken out of the hands of the user, at least, sort of the fine-tuned piloting. And then finally, I think with, cell phone technology, I think if not this year, the next year, we're going to start seeing cell phones that have the ability to shoot 360. I mean, it's kind of beyond something that should have happened sooner because you already have every single cell phone nowadays has 2 cameras on it, one front and one back. Yeah. So it's just going to take a manufacturer, again, squeezing and shrinking the technology down to a point where you can stick 2 spherical wide-angle lenses on a camera on a cell phone, and now you're sharing 360 stuff. Yeah. They talked actually a little bit about it on TWIP a few days ago about sort of the rise of 360, and some people say it may be a fad, it might not go anywhere, but I think when kids are sharing 360 photos all the time, you're going to have the older generation, well, I want to see the 360 photos, so that'll prompt me to get like the headset, or at the very minimum, you can look at a 360 photo on your phone, that's not a big deal, but for the full immersive experience. So I think we're going to see VR and 360 really take off.
Basically, once porn grabs onto 360 video technology, which they've done a little bit of, but once they go full in, then I think we'll see that. I mean, that's always been, that's kind of always been the forefront of technology, whether it be Betamax to VHS, or online video and stuff like that. So we'll just have to watch porn to find out what happens next.
Nice
I'm sorry, what was that, BA?
I have a question actually. I'm curious to hear your thoughts about what if anything, do we think that there's going to be a time when serious photojournalists are actually using cell phones as their primary cameras?
I remember back in the day there was a guy who took the original iPhone and was shooting photojournalism with that and published a book or something. I don't know who it was or.
Oh yeah. Well, Ed Kashi, he shot his first piece for the Times at the time of Hurricane, not Katrina, the Sandy Storm. So the Times did basically cover Sandy Storm completely with 4 or 5 photographers. And they'd done it all on iPhone only. This was, 4 years ago? And a year later, they went back and photographed the same places also with an iPhone again. And so, I mean, there is a lot of photojournalists already out there doing most of their work with an iPhone. Or there are, writers, journalists who, after, the photographers have been fired, they've been asked to take the pictures with their iPhone next to the, So, unfortunately, it is happening out there already.
Well, that's what we have. I mean, I was working for the Daily News on a freelance basis until last year, and like everyone else at the Daily News, I no longer work at the Daily News. And, that's what they have now. Most of the photo staff has been Canon. They just have writers going out there with iPhones and making little iPhone pictures.
Yeah.
So actually the reason why I'm thinking about it, because, the Daily News advertises itself as New York's picture newspaper.
Yeah.
And they have very talented writers with iPhones taking pictures, and so I'm just curious if we think that we're going to have actual serious people. Like I can't imagine a world we're going to have Tyler Hicks. We're going to keep dragging him into this again and again and again. I can't imagine a world we have guys like him running around with it.
Was it I'm trying to remember if it was Tyler Hicks or a different Times photographer who was in Afghanistan and actually had his DSLR drop into a river, and so the only thing he had was his point and shoot. So I mean, like, and he shot a huge amount of his assignment on a point and shoot, which I think it was like 6 years ago, which essentially is the equivalent of cell phone tech now. I'm sure point and shoot was like crap compared. 2004 point and shoot was crap compared to I mean, unless you had like. So I mean, I think it's already happened.
Just have a disposable camera.
But I think it'll always depend on the story. I mean, I know that even who I despise, I hate the way that everything about cell phone cameras, even the really, really good ones, the way that they look and the way that they feel and the way that I have to interact with the camera, I just don't like it. I find that some stories, that's what I take with it, though. I'll take a photo. So I mean, I think again, like some story, it's the same. To me, it's just going to become, do you shoot on a cell phone? Is the story like, what's the story? Do I shoot it on a cell phone? Do I shoot it on a DSLR? Do I shoot it on medium format or film? Like it just becomes one more camera in our arsenal. And that's fine. I mean, as the tech gets better and better, I think that's fine, as long as the problem becomes, though, like the Daily News, like the Chicago, I always forget whether it's the Chicago Trib or the News that fired all their staff photographers. But it becomes, does the person who is taking the photo have the knowledge on how to take the photo? Because I mean, like, I know that my phone, my Note 3 is basically an ancient cell phone camera now, from 2014. Is when it came out. My sister has a brand new iPhone 6. The camera is so much better on that. I can still take better photos than her. Like, with pure confidence that I can stand next to her with my camera and take a better photo than she can, because I have a couple years experience at least. and in general photojournalism. I mean, like, I have the ethics, the trials and tribulations that a photojournalist goes through. So again, we just have to, and this is something we do very, very poorly, I find, as a community, is convince people, in the whether it be editors or whether it be the media buying public, that there is a reason why you need to buy photos from us as opposed to my 15-year-old sister with a cell phone camera. And that, to me, at the end of the day, whatever the tech is, whether it's a drone or whether it's me hanging outside off the side of a helicopter, we have to make sure that we are able to convince people, and unfortunately, right now we're losing that battle dramatically. That's my opinion.
Zach, you should send me the link to your 15-year-old sister's photojournalism website. I would love to buy some of her prints.
No.
At least 2 prints. I want her to say that she sold more prints than you.
She probably has. I did give my other sister, who now works at Forbes as a journalist, I gave her first Polaroid camera, and the first photo that she ever took with it was actually amazing. It was this fantastic photo of our Bichon Frise, the little white puffy dog. And from that day, I was like, okay, so I'm not going to give you any more cameras. Sorry, I'm the photographer in this house.
Don't you dare get better.
Exactly.
Better not see you shooting pictures on your phone.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's go on to our next topic. We're talking about gear. I always like to see what's new and interesting out there. So I saw a review of this light stick, pixel stick, on Petapixel, and we're talking about technology that's changed. I mean, this is something, maybe it could have existed 5 years ago. I don't know, but it's definitely something you don't see very often, and it's pretty neat in terms of what you can do with it, specifically in terms of how you can change your photos. Now, obviously, if you're talking straight visual journalism, we're not going to be using this in our work because we're documentary. We're seeing what we're photographing. But in the same way I would use a flash to create an interesting portrait, I might see myself using this to create an interesting portrait or set a scene. So, I mean, hopefully you all had the opportunity to look over this article. What are your thoughts on this tool, I would say, or is this something you would ever play with? Do you think it's revolutionary? Do you think this is cool? What are your thoughts on this device?
Yeah, I think it's fun. I mean, I probably wouldn't personally use it myself unless there are some very specific occasion, maybe portraits, or if you are doing something unique for an event, that could be something fun. Like I've seen it used in weddings. I'm thinking prom night. Maybe the kids want to have some fun and they want something unique. That would be an interesting way to use it. Other than that, yeah, I think it's fun. I think it's always a nice thing to have an extra tool in your bag to play around with. Some clients might.
Oh, I think we lost Federica.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
All right, Bia, continue where she was talking about.
Well, actually, my thought is very similar to hers, actually. I've actually been hearing about this thing for a while now, just because I live a little closer to the wedding world than I think you guys do. And, there's a lot of wedding photographers who are obsessed with this thing. I can't see any real usage for it at all ever in the photojournalism world. You would be laughed out of the room. It has some interesting portrait applications. I view it as one of those sort of fad things. There were, 5 years ago, everybody on Tumblr was using bokeh effects, and all of a sudden, bokeh was everywhere. Yeah. And a couple of years ago, somebody photoshopped a dinosaur into a wedding photo, and suddenly there were dinosaurs and monsters of all sorts and shapes and sizes in all these wedding photos. I think the life of this thing, which is spawned sort of common public consciousness. I was hearing a little about 2 years ago, and now I'm hearing about it pretty frequently. And at some point, somebody's going to do a series of pictures. I don't know what it's going to be. It could be portraits, could be wedding things, could be something, and there's going to be a BuzzFeed listicle about it. And there's going to be 100 of these pictures, and then it's done.
Yep.
And the thing is, it's $350 or something like that. It's come down in price quite a bit too. Right. But it's still, that's for a lot of folks, especially in our industry, that's a pretty hefty chunk of change. And I really just can't see the ROI on it. I think it's a cool thing. I think it's really nifty. I think it's what it did with it. I think it's sort of the crazy acid variety of sort of what the Westcott Isolite is doing. If you want to go crazy with that kind of thing. But I don't really see it having a big long-term application for really anybody in the industry other than being a novelty.
Yeah.
Zach, how about you? Going to use this to the next protest?
I think I could see
maybe a Trump rally
for
Bernie Sanders.
I could see using it for editorial work, portraits and stuff like that, environmental stuff and like that. I remember seeing like some sort of feature on this talking about how was it James Corden used it in his opening credits, and I could see as like because I do a lot of video work. I could see that as a really cool way of doing opening credits for things, or just kind of using it in that way. But I agree with you, B.A. Like the moment that this thing again it hits, like you said, like it's gonna two things are gonna happen. It's gonna hit BuzzFeed listicle, and then somebody from China is gonna come out with a $100 version of it, and then it's done. And it's going to become the next thing that everybody's tired of using it, and then Petapixel will write a blog. A listicle basically saying, are we just tired of this thing now? Every wedding photographer is using it. In the same way I kind of feel like I'm really hoping, because I personally don't like drone work, I'm really hoping that drones are going to have that kind of same thing that like, okay, everybody and their freaking brother is using drones in wedding photography and everything under the sun. Okay, now it's done. Let's get back to real work. Let's get back to like real on the ground photography, but that's just me, because I got into this business not so I could run a little remote control, so I could be the person hanging outside of the helicopter taking the photos. That's why I got into this industry. I don't want to be running a freaking little thing on my phone. But anyway, that's
a helicopter.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're going to come out with the personal drones, Zach, and that would be perfect for you.
Just attach it to the back of the photographer on a backpack.
There you go.
Like an Inspector Gadget.
I'm all about that. That I am all about. I will wear a helmet and go full in.
Federica, did you have any more thoughts before you were?
It's fine. I mean, I think it's a cute, fun novelty, but I wouldn't see myself using it.
Yeah, I can't see really anything besides creative work. I'm just like, if I was bored with, I just want to play around with something, I could see this, but I can't justify it. Not for that price. I mean, that's a toy at this price. I would probably maybe rig up something with like a fluorescent light tube, and try and do something that way. I mean, I think what this thing can do with the way it can present graphics, you can load up graphics in it. I think that's pretty neat. But again, I could really only just see this being used if I was like a wedding photographer and I want to give my customers something unique, at least, like you said, until it becomes so tired that they're going to be like, oh, not the light stick again, come on.
Yeah.
It's
My
the
brother just had
the lightsabers. I'm assuming you've seen those, BA. The
I've got
lighting
one.
equipment. Yeah, I remember you have one. Those I am endlessly fascinated by. Like I wish
love
that
it.
there's if I had the ability to have an intern run around with me, and be able to do on the fly portraits, I would be all about doing those. The like they're basically like a fluorescent light bulb on with a handle, and they give like pretty decent directional light. And
I have
I
one
absolutely
foot
love
away from me. Hold on.
it. There you go.
All right, so we're going to have a Around the Lens exclusive on-the-air review
God.
by B.A. Van
Yeah,
Zeiss.
it's actually funny because I was out with, and we're gonna keep just dragging him into this, C.S. Muncie, because he was testing the Amazon.com knockoff of this thing this weekend.
Oh, nice.
So we went to a shoot, and I brought mine, ta-da,
There you
and
go.
he brought his, and I will tell you that the knockoff is garbage. Lasted very little time. Same lighting effect, very nice, portable, nice and easy.
Yeah.
But just wasn't nearly as good. This thing is great though because you can use it for really any kind of field you're in. If you are a news journalist and you get some call in the middle of the day, hey, go do a portrait of somebody, which is not outside the realm of possibility. You have a portable lighting setup you can bring with you. You can hand it to somebody. You can even have the person hold it. I've been doing this series of portraits of poets in conjunction with some other people, and the other day I had this really very noteworthy poet who was doing a sitting with me, and his face just did not reflect light in the way I needed it to, which is a very rude thing to tell somebody. He didn't take it very well at all. So I gave him the thing. He held the thing. It became a beautiful portrait in half a second. So that has value. I think that certainly does.
Yeah.
But
What is that again?
They should send me some more of them. It is the Westcott Ice Light. It costs about $400. They do make a knockoff one. There's another brand, I can't remember what the off-brand is, and they make this new Amazon one too, which I wouldn't recommend. I have seen the off-brand one. It's not bad.
You say it was the Ice Light?
The Westcott, W-E-S-T. Oh, I don't want to spell it because I have a hard to spell names, so I don't like that. W-E-S-T-C-O-T-T. That's the Ice Light.
Yeah.
Around the Lens, brought to you by Ice Light.
Yeah. No, I mean, I that is actually, to kind of go back to like the technology when we were talking about where we're going to go in 5 years, is I've seen the other thing that Westcott, again, is that they're doing is the flexible LED panels. Those things I am dying for. I'm dying for those to get so much cheaper because when I was in Hong Kong, you just go down these streets and they're selling these LED strips. And you can just buy rolls of them, and you buy them by the foot, and you just, I don't know if you cut them or solder, I don't know, I didn't look at them that much, but you can buy these things really cheap, and a buddy of mine and I were talking about, because you can literally just put them on walls, and so you could have like a bank of lights, if you had like a studio or whatever, you could have a bank of lights that is controllable by color, and lighting, and hue, and Kelvin, or whatever the hell you wanted to do. And they're super, in Hong Kong at least, like you just go down these market streets and they sell you the knockoff like flashlights and camera, batteries and stuff like that, and then they just have rolls of these things, and they exist. You can go to I've looked into Home Depot has stuff like it already, and this is the stuff that for me as a person who despises using flash, I have an SB900. I think I've used it a total of 5 times. And I don't like using light, but I have like a little light panel that I've started using that I'll have someone to like hold on to or do whatever that I'll do for portraits, and it gives like maybe I have like 3 feet of light from it. But once we get into this kind of world where we just have like blankets that we can throw on a bed or stuff like that, I mean just that so that the lighting can build into kind of the natural aspect of the room. That if, especially, you're working filmmaking, you can just put a panel, if you could just put a flexible panel of LEDs behind a curtain so it looks like daylight's coming in, oh my God. I mean, I remember in film school when I was working with Bolexes and trying to figure out how to, oh shit, we started filming at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and now it's 6 o'clock. The lighting is completely and totally different. The idea that I could just put a panel of LEDs for like $100 behind some curtains and keep the same light all day. Oh my! 19-year-old me would have died a happy teenager.
I think the biggest question here, though, Zach Checkmark Roberts, is why you didn't buy all of them. I mean, I don't understand. You were in Hong Kong, everything there. I don't understand. You could have bought all of them. You could have.
It was only
taken better pictures than your sister.
It was only an $800 round trip flight from New York, so to get to Hong Kong, so I can just go back again.
Oh yeah.
That's not a bad price, actually.
I know, it was like amazing.
Yeah.
I bought it 3 days ahead of time. It was great. So.
All right, so we got another feature cast. What's going to happen in the future of technology?
Yeah.
All right, well, let's go ahead and wrap up this this portion of the show with our plugs. Panelists, we like to, well, not plugs, picks of the weeks. Panelists always like to recommend what you as viewers can check out that we think is interesting that came out in the week that was. So, Federica, why don't you go ahead and start?
Yeah, pick of the week, I was going to suggest Fotografia magazine. It's a web-based magazine, and it features a lot of photography, mobile photography, kind of more documentary, conceptual work. What is nice about it is that they have a weekly and a monthly email that they send out, and they feature all kinds of awards, grants, competitions that you can apply, and there is really everything from the WordPress to just about anything you can think of, both in fine art and photojournalism. Lots of grants, any kind of grants you can apply to. It's very concise, and it's always sent a month ahead of the deadlines, so that's a very good resource to have, fotografiamagazine.com.
Okay.
And my pick, I guess,
still
the Westcott Ice Light. Lacking anything better? There we go. Please send me lots of them. Thank you.
It's the Ice Light from Westcott.
Yes.
Yeah.
Zach, what do you got for us?
Mine is an article in the British Journal of Photography, and it is lost on my tabs right now. There it is. And it's actually the secret world of tax havens in pictures. I really love the last piece that I did, like a really big photo essay for like magazine style and everything like that, was this piece on that I also did an investigation for on voting suppression. And one of the really big problems getting assigned a story like that is, how does one take photos of something about voting suppression, something that happens not only behind curtains, and also kind of get outside of the normal tropes of black people in voting lines and stuff like that. And to me, the whole Panama Papers investigation is another one of those stories. How do you photograph? How do you illustrate stories about tax fraud, or like money laundering and stuff like that? I mean, other than literally just money, falling down, or stock photos like that. And it shows a couple different photographers and how they did it, in portraits of people. There's one that's great. It's like an employee of Jetpack Cayman. Jetpack Cayman demonstrates this new water sport now available on the island of Grand Cayman, and so it's this guy like shooting, it's like, and so like it's a range of kind of this crazy stuff that you'd think you attach immediately to millions and millions of dollars, but then like there's this one of an empty lot, and it's a really great photo of an empty lot in Grand Cayman, and I personally, those are the photo essays I like the best, is things that you're like, as a photographer, I have no idea how I would approach this, and then somebody just knocks it right out of the park, like these photographers did. So.
Excellent, thank you. Nice. Yeah, and I'm going to throw out the Facebook page for the DINFOS, which is the Defense Information School. Go there, check out all the winners from the Visual Information Awards program. That's MILFOG, MILVID, and MILGRAPH. It's the best representation of what photographers, broadcasters, and graphic artists do in the military, and so I think they're all deserving of your time to go check out. Really, a lot of great entries, a lot of quality work that was selected, including our own CS Muncie. So at the very minimum, go see what he did. So that's pretty much it for this week's show. Panelists, how can our audience get to know more about you, learn more about you?
Yes, my website is federicaarmstrong.com, and you have my work, both documentary and nonprofit work. And another website that you want to check out maybe is paloaltophotoforum.org. It's a new lecture series that I've created this year here in Palo Alto. We're hosting great photojournalists, mainly National Geographic photographers. We had the first event last month with Ed Kashi. It was very successful. We had over 200 attendees, and next event will be in October with Randy Olson, longtime National Geographic photojournalist. And if you're in the Bay Area, come over and check it out. Again, paloaltophotoforum.org. Thank you.
Cool. All right, great.
And I'm working on 4 different products at once right now, so I'm just going to tell everyone to go to my Instagram, which is instagram.com/b.a.vansise, which is hard to spell, so look below. That's it.
All right, thank you. Zach?
And as always, I'm ZD Roberts, basically across the board, zdroberts.com, ZD Roberts on Twitter, ZD Roberts on Instagram, and ZD Roberts on Facebook. So I got my branding all set.
Same for me with DJM Photo, DavidJMurphyPhoto.com, and everything else related to that, all your social medias. But of course, as always, I promote AroundTheLens.com, where you can find everything related to this show and every other show we've done, in addition to stories, articles that are being published on the regular about what our panelists are doing and anything going on in the visual journalism realm. So go over there for your one-stop shop with everything related to Around the Lens. So again, I want to thank our panelists, Federica and BA. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And as always, for Zach, I am David J. Murphy. This has been Around the Lens, and we're out. We'll see you in the bonus topic. Stop broadcast.